Alright guys, tonight I'm going to show you how I remove my flash suppressor. Oops, right here. This thing right here, off the end of my gun. This is the 1522 that I had in one of my other videos. Alright, before you do anything, you're going to want to take apart, the lower and the upper, so it'll be easier to move around. Take that out. Bolt out here. Lay that aside. Push in your rear pin right here. This one's always a little bit tougher to get pushed in. There you go. Alright, put that over there. Now, you got that down. Now this is as far as I took mine apart, because I didn't want to go through the trouble of making or buying a barrel nut wrench for this, the nut back in here to take the barrel out of the upper. So what I did is I just put it in a vise like this. Now, if you're going to use a vise, if the vise you're using is more than 5 inches, and you can't use it because it will cover up the nut right here on the flash suppressor, and your wrench you won't be able to get to it. So, because this right here is only 4 5/8. So you need to know that before you start any of this. Alright, so after that, what you need to do is you need to protect your barrel. You can use leather or anything, something of that nature, but you need to make sure it's tightly wrapped, covers all the parts you're locking down in the vise, because you do not want to gouge the steel on your barrel, of course. I ended up using Scotch tape. I just took it's like masking tape, really thick, and I just wrapped it probably 2 or 3 times around the barrel. And then when you tighten down on these barrels right here, they're so thick you should not have to be afraid of tightening down on it. If you're hand tightening it, you won't be able to hurt the barrel if you have it wrapped good. You won't be able to put too much pressure on it to crimp it or anything like that. It shouldn't. If it does, you need to send your gun back, because that's ridiculous. Okay, so after you have that in the vise, you want to put it. It's easier if you have it facing to your right, like if you're facing the vise facing it like this, because when you're pulling on something, you can tell how much force you're putting on it. That way you can tell you're not torquing down too much. So you put it facing this way, in the vise. And you want to make sure the wrench, the longer side right there, is on the back side of the flash suppressor, because it gives you more leverage to root around and pull it, break it loose. Alright, so after that, you put it in, and it should be pretty tough to break loose, but once you break loose, it'll come right off just like this right here. Now, one thing you gotta be careful about when you're vising it down, if you're using a vise like the vise I used, it covered this whole area right here, and it actually came a little bit onto this washer. If you guys didn't know, there's a washer back here, and this protects the flash suppressor from messing up your barrel right here. But I actually ended up, as you can see, it messed up my washer a little bit right there. I'm just gonna have to file that out. So you want to be careful not to mess that up, because that's probably not extremely high grade steel, I would say, obviously. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Make sure you wrap your barrel good. And this is a 3/4 wrench. So that's what this is. This is 1/2 by 28 threads. That's what all the standard threads are on the AR-15s. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, if you try to do this without vising it, you will more than likely, unless you're lucky, you're going to end up pulling your barrel out of your upper right here. It's going to twist the whole barrel, and back here, all that's holding this barrel is 2 little arms going this way. I haven't seen it for myself, but as far as I know, that's all that's holding it. And those little arms will they twist or they break. And what they do is they'll twist or break in the polymer, and it'll gouge it, and it won't be lined up, and it won't be working like it's supposed to. And your whole upper will be destroyed, and you will have to buy a new one. So you gotta be careful about that. And so I do not advise doing this by hand. You definitely want to lock it down in a vise good and tight. I tried heating it up before, because I just didn't want to use a vise, because the vise isn't at my house, it's somewhere else. So that didn't work. I heated up the muzzle, the flash suppressor with a torch. Not a cutting torch, but just a propane torch. And it didn't really do anything. And I put liquid wrench on it and let it sit for all overnight, and that didn't do anything. So really, you just gotta have a vise to get it off. Pretty much the only realistic way. I would not risk doing it by hand. And that's pretty much all there is to it. If you don't have a vise, well then I guess you just have to find someone who does. And alternative is take it somewhere they shouldn't charge more than a couple bucks, is just to take your flash suppressor loose. So, you know, once you take that off, you're free to put, you know, suppressor on here, or muzzle brake, or another kind of flash suppressor. So that's all there is to it. Hope you guys found it informational, and I'll see you around.